be nice to the editors because they can be the ones that make you look good.
It's all there for you, and you can do it and you completely mess it up and then take it back to the start. And,
Yeah, well, God bless Command Z. And,
This, for example, it's an hour long, however long we've been going, days. And it just wears you down, to be honest, because you're just kind of like cutting bit, cut after cutting bit.
And editors, I guess, need to develop it, but this ruthless streak,
like you can get really, you feel bad. It's like, you said that and it's lost to the ages because I have decided, well, yeah, get used to it. You're God. You're deciding that was crap. That was boring.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Good afternoon, evening, good morning. I don't know when you're listening, when you're watching, but welcome back. Very happy to have you along. This is Making Video Your Business with me, Matt Lee, and my colleague of many a year, Nick Kay. Hi, Nick.
Hello.
We were going to talk about editing. We do loads of editing.
We do.
You said to me, editing is the great leveler. What did you mean by that?
What I meant by that is it's much more difficult to make your shots look
right
Hollywood.
Yeah.
Or rather, it's certainly expensive to do so. What you can do is you can edit in a way that 100% matches Hollywood. So you can't shoot a Kubrick film because you need a giant hotel and Jack Nicholson, amazing, or let's just say amazing acting talent, lighting, big genie booms with 20Ks on them, Yeah. But if you watch that back and you sort of think about how he builds his suspense in the film, the pace he uses on his edits and stuff like that, you can do that for free. Like you can use your bit of editing software that you've got. Some are free. My 9-year-old daughter is loving her editing at the moment. She's doing it on CapCut, and she just downloads a new one called Splice.
Okay.
And with all of those things, yes, there's stuff that can be bought and improved, but in terms of like just the basic rules of how you edit stuff, anyone can do that on anything. It's just learning tricks, techniques, and sort of telling your story the best way.
Well, I was going to ask you about that because ever since we've met, and I wasn't formally trained in film. I did business management at uni, but so I guess self-taught over the years. But one of the things that keeps coming up in learnings, whether it's from yourself or books, videos, is a story arc. And I'd never heard of a story arc until like 15, 20 years ago. And I was like, what's one of those? And basically, for anyone who doesn't know, you should have to anything really a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? So same with the book. Like you need to set the scene and then get into the juicy facts and figures about the characters and developing the characters. And then there has to be some kind of conclusion because that's the end. There's no more pages left. But same with the video, same with the business profile, right? You still need to tell that story in that story arc way, right? Is that a thing that some people don't consider, I guess?
Yeah. So that's your basic your story. I mean, there's always a story. There's always a story to be told and to be found. And that's my that's the thing I bring into any edit that I sort of gets slapped onto my desk or whatever. Like, even if it's someone's been to a boat show and spent 6 hours filming people at the boat show, I'm like, okay, what's the story that I'm going to tell?
Say even on a conference roundup, which is
let's do it. So you got your conference,
yeah,
you got your music track. You can just play the first minute and a half of the music track, and you can put a random selection. A computer could do it without AI or whatever.
Yeah,
bang, 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 end, logo.
Yeah.
But without any sort of additional technical know-how or sort of fancy whizzy transitions or anything going into that, you can also do that really well. Because for a start, if you're going to use your music track, the reason people use a music track is because music goes somewhere. It is a story. Like every song is a story.
Yeah.
Right? Like it doesn't sort of just like twang, 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 end. Like it usually, it might start soft, it builds, and it, kind of ends like that. And those are the sort of that, you engineer your music so that it takes you on that journey, and you might sort of speed up the edit, because it doesn't necessarily have to be by a story. It doesn't have to be the story of the day, because actually, does that matter? Like if someone was watching, someone wants to know what the experience of being at, a music festival is. Let's take away from business conferences because they are boring as
Yeah.
but like say, there's a music festival
Yeah.
happened. What was the feeling like of being there? It doesn't actually matter what band was on first and what band was on last, and whether the sort of magician came on in the middle. Like
Yeah, yeah.
you could completely, like, editing allows you to take that order to pieces and reassemble it into a completely different way.
Me and you both love watching football, of all sorts, Premier League mainly. But like, if you go to watch a game in real life, you will watch the game, take it in, remember some highlights and some lowlights or some flashpoints or whatever's happened. You'll stick match of the day on maybe, and you'll watch Forest Newcastle, for example. And the way they've edited and told the story of the game, that was nothing like the game that you watched.
Yeah,
So, and it's
yeah,
not that they're lying because it still happened, but they're just making it better and more of a
yeah. Well,
sort
they're
of
also I mean,
drama.
there are certain there are journalistic rules they have to follow. For example, they can't make it look like, I was going to say Michael Owen. I'm going to stick with it. Michael Owen's goal came, after at the end when it actually came right at the start. Like, they have to show events that actually happened, and they have to show them in the order that they did
That's
happen.
true.
But everything else, story wise, is up for grabs. And I think what's interesting about that as well is you talk about the fan who was there at the game. You ask for the Liverpool fan what they thought,
Yeah.
and the Chelsea fan what they thought happened. So you'll have two completely conflicting stories there, and then you'll have a highlights package which is made by an editor. So you got three factual events and actually three completely probably different stories.
Yeah.
The message of which being that the story's up for grabs, right? So
Of course.
when
Yeah.
when you get that footage to sort of forcibly drag it back towards the topic, like when you get that footage that you've shot or that someone in your team has shot, part of the fun of editing and the fun of doing the stuff we do as well, because it's a bit different if there's a script that's been written beforehand or there's a director who's got a certain vision. Like as
Yeah.
the editor, if you've got the freedom, which we often do, you can go, right, well, what sort of vibe do I want to
Yeah.
create here? What sort of story do I want to
Yeah. And
sort
you're
of
right.
tell?
And also within that, you're just saying about the power and the control that an editor has. Like, we always joke, be nice to the editors because they can be the ones that make you look good at the end of the day. But we do it sometimes, and it's not in a disingenuous, I'm lying about it way, but normally we've got two or three cameras set up on a person at any one time for various reasons, but you can cut between angles and almost make someone say a sentence that they didn't say. Now, that's not to say that we do that in a nefarious or a naughty way, in effect, for want of a better word. But if someone's messed up or droning on in the middle of a sentence, like I am now, you can just cut. It's going to be your gag, but you can just cut another like half of a sentence in, which still makes a salient and understandable sentence, but it's the start of one sentence and the end of another. So I like that in the way you can tell the story even more so by using years of experience and technical tricks and giving
Yeah.
the customer a
Well, yeah,
better product,
you
right?
can push the envelope because obviously, if you were doing something journalistically, like if we were going and filming the Lord Mayor talking, Lord Mayor, just the mayor, we would have a sort of a duty
Yes.
to edit it in a way that represents what he said, like but if you're producing stuff for yourself, or if you're working for a client and you want them to sort of present in themselves in a certain way, then really anything that you can make believable is fine, because they're going to presumably see it and go yes or no, that's
Well,
fine.
yeah, yeah,
They go, hang on, why did you put that sentence in the middle of that other sentence, and you just take it out?
yeah.
Like
Well, yeah, true.
you
Yeah,
wouldn't do it. But so yeah, so you can do anything that's technically possible to do,
yeah,
you can do, and that's what and that, I suppose that's what's the other sort of thing, apart from it being an equalizing thing, is that just how fun and actually addictive it is.
yeah. Which
So
is
speaking, there's sort of a love story to editing, really,
isn't there just? Yeah. I
because
mean, when I worked on my before I met any of you guys like 10, 15 years ago, but I I'd probably charge a client, say, like, for 2 days edit because that's pretty standard, like, unless you're making something really quick. But if you're looking at getting 10, 15 pieces of content, filmed in a day, and then it's gonna take 2 or 3 days to edit them properly, a bit of back and forth with the client. But I'd say when I was learning especially, that I would pore over an edit. Like,
yeah, it take
I did
weeks. Yeah,
yeah, days and weeks where maybe I'd leave it for a couple of days and come back to it and watch it with fresh eyes and go, "Oh, actually, that doesn't now sit right with me," and move it around again, and you had the ability to do that, whereas now, not that we don't take due care and attention, of course we do, but we're so busy that like edits are going out all the time. They get quality controlled, like of course they do. We've got processes here, but it is addictive, like getting that nail in that edit, because sometimes you sit back, click play, or you show it to someone else in the office for a different pair of eyes, and they're like, "Wow, that's cool," and you're like, "Yeah, I was sort of hoping you were going to say that,"
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
knew in my own
it's a
head,
relief.
like I
Yeah.
nailed that one because I've used A, B, and C, and it's also nice, as you well know, being head of production, to see the rest of our work colleagues like raise their game as well, and like you've helped pull them up, and they've also
Well, I
taken it.
really, I really enjoy just watching other people's work within our setup. Actually, be it Alex's and Pete's and Jodie's and stuff like the edits that they will do, and they'll make different decisions to what I would have made. You're watching it back, and you're like, "Oh, that's weird. I wouldn't have done that." And then let's see how this turns out. And and then you see that you sort of go on the journey that they want to
Take you on,
they
yeah,
want to
yeah,
take you on. And yeah, and I think when that kicks in when you're working on editing and you start you start trying to square all those circles and get everything
yeah.
into place, because as soon as you start making decisions, because editing, that's what editing is, it's
It is just choices, yeah.
decisions.
Well, because quite often you'll have the same shot, like this shot, like this wide here,
Yeah.
that hopefully Pete's gone back to.
At some yeah, at some
But
point someone will cut from the wide and they'll cut to me talking.
yeah, and it
And
just makes the shot a bit more interesting. And as an editor, you'll have 3 or 4 options normally of the same shot, and like you said, it's a decision as to whether the shot over the shoulder look at the computer looks better, or the one from behind the person's screen looking at the person on the computer looks better, or um, and also I dare say that by replacing one shot with another, you can sort of within reason totally change an edit, right? Like the feel of it, the look of it. I mean, one shot maybe not.
well, that kind of goes back nicely to that sort of equalizing idea, because yeah, to change the look and feel of a piece, like in terms of the shots that you do. So you want to make it spooky and scary. Well, you got to change all the lighting in the room. You might
Yeah,
have to change the way the person judge. You have to change so many things,
yeah,
which involve expense and time and physical involvement in the real world.
yeah, of
Whereas
course, yeah.
to change the feel in post production, it takes is just a different idea, a different approach, and a little bit of time.
Yeah.
It's all there for you, and you can do it, and you completely mess it up, and then take it back to the start
Yeah,
and do it again.
yeah, well, God bless Command Z and, edit, undo.
Yeah, non-destructive,
Yeah.
non-destructive editing. So yeah, it's that is about and fun to experiment with, actually.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we try and make them for most clients now, but and I was watching ours because we filmed PVS Media's the other week, but bloopers reels, like have I know we're talking about editing now, but if you're listening to this or watching this and you're thinking, I'm a business owner or I run my social media for, the business I work for, and I want to do a bit more of this, that, and the other, then, get people on film. But if they mess it up, don't get rid of the footage. Don't bin the clip, because if it's funny or it's turned out wrong, but it's not like offensive to anybody, like that's really worth using in another film, like you say, a bloopers reel that peels back the lid on your business and go, oh, Steve, who I've met 10 times and is always quite serious. Like I didn't realize he was really into jet skiing and stand-up comedy on the weekends. Like he goes and does it in the back rooms of pubs and like so I just think
Jet skiing.
yeah.
Imagine that.
Love that.
The pool
Just
tournament.
just Steve. Steve,
Like,
what are you doing on your
guys,
jet ski again? But yeah,
I told you, you're barred.
yeah, but
That's it.
you can have a lot more fun. I mean, the one thing that is not easily solvable, I think sometimes clients think, "Oh, that's just a couple of changes." Fine, visually, yes, that is a couple of changes. It's when someone says, "Oh yeah, can we just try a different music track?" And you're like, obviously the answer is always yes. Changing the music track can drastically change the look, the feel, the vibe, the feeling a film gives you by watching it, can't it? Whether it's
Yeah, it's sort of integral.
so coming back to editing and like messing around with it, like what is I mean, because you're a great editor, like I'll blow your own trumpet for you, but
Thank you.
what is your workflow? Like, what is your process? Do you have a fixed? I know it's creative and it's always flexible, but are there some like one or five or 15 things that you do in a row, or you definitely tick off mentally that always needs to be done. I mean, and 15 is probably a lot, but
The trick, I mean, it's probably like cooking, like baking, or I
yeah,
suppose you sort of the painting kind of analogy. Like that preparation
it's
is
key.
quite key.
Yeah.
So first stage is to get stuff organized, get your footage kind of organized. Which obviously I'm talking to a range of people at different levels. Some probably far higher level than others, going, "What are these
They
clowns
probably just
talking about?"
switched off.
Yeah. So, but assuming that you've got a bunch of say you got some people talking on camera or some dialogue or some action, and
Yeah.
you've got a bunch of sort of accompanying footage, it's to sort of separate that out, find out what what the message is, what the dialogue may be. And it's worth mentioning because there is a tendency, especially when time is a factor,
Mm.
to just crack straight on and start doing stuff.
Yeah.
And the danger is that you sort of get to the end and then you realize, oh, what's this bit? Oh, it's this guy introducing the whole thing. You should have gone right back at the start.
Yeah.
Have a good look through and see what you've got. So that's probably your first stage, and then you can start to build. So, because one mistake I've thought that novice editors do when they're dealing with longer sort of form
Mm.
content, trying to cut it down, is they think, right, I've got an hour of this
Yeah.
for example. Oh, it's an hour long, however long we've been going, days. It's an hour long. I've got to get it down to 20 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever it is. And then you're sort of cutting from the start, and it just wears you down, to be honest, because you just kind of like cutting bit, cut after cutting bit. And so I don't start from the hour, I start from 0 and build it up.
Yeah. Good idea.
So then, and also it that does break, that we were talking about story before, it breaks that, it doesn't matter what happened in real life. What matters is what the video is going to be,
Yeah. Exactly.
what the
Yeah.
story's going to be. So if you start from 0 and build it up, it gives you the option to go, yes, and then that should happen next, and that should happen next,
Yeah.
rather than being sort of artificially beholden to the order that things were said at the time. If you've got someone chatting about their business or chatting about their charitable event or whatever they're doing, all the stuff they said that you're not going to use is irrelevant. Like,
Yeah.
don't get like you can get really, you feel bad. It's like, I'm just, you said that and it's lost to the ages because I have decided, well, yeah, get used to it. You're God. You're deciding that was crap. That was boring.
Yeah.
It's gone.
And editors, I guess, need to develop it. But this ruthless streak where, like you just said there, oh, these people have
Bin
been,
it. Yeah.
working on a script for 2 weeks before we turned up to film. And actually, like, and it's not against client, but if you get rid of a couple of their lines because it doesn't work with the story that you're building, I can guarantee you, they will not ring you up as a business 2 weeks later and go, "Excuse me, I definitely said that line about Baby Bell cheeses. Could you, where is that?" Like, people are so nervous in front of camera if they don't do it all the time, I guess, that they often don't remember what they've said. So yeah, if it doesn't work, for making the client a better product, then take that line out. Even if they're the MD or CEO and they say something really important, like if it doesn't work with the
Yeah.
film, then take it out. And
Yeah, I mean, you're doing an aeroplane safety video, you got to make sure you mention the exits. So there might be times when the client might ring up and go, "This is important, it's got to go." But I'm telling you, and from our vast experience, that's a rare thing that happens. And
yes,
maybe that's because we approach it with a certain degree of sensitivity.
I
We
think so.
try and educate ourselves as to what it is that they're trying, what
Yeah,
the key messages are, and hell, a brief beforehand is even sometimes the case.
yeah.
And so you kind of know what you're working to, and you know what needs to be included. And if you're not sure, you kind of have conversations and you ask.
But yeah, it's not something if you're a junior editor watching this, like, hone your craft. But like, yeah, that first gig you ever get, like, don't be. I mean, if it's your first ever gig, then hey, make them 3 films for the price of one, and use it as practice to make more, edit more stuff. But yeah, also don't be afraid that CEO of a certain business will remember verbatim what they said 3 weeks ago. Like, it doesn't happen. But
Yeah.
like you say, solid brief. Meet the client beforehand, get to know the client if you can. Definitely have a look on their website about what their story, their ethos, their values are.
Because depending on the production people have to make, I mean, a lot of the time we're talking about sort of mini doc world where you go, you don't really know what you're going to get. You try journalistically to get the best you can,
Yeah,
blah blah blah, which will be a reality for a lot of people, and it's a situation where the editor has a lot of power simply as the editor, because they get to sit and go, all right, okay, what we're going to do with this.
yeah,
The edit is created by a kind of from that process of pre-research to what you film on the day. And if it's you or I sitting interviewing a sort of a business owner or a stakeholder about whatever it is, we're asking them questions, possibly not knowing what they're going to say, and you're sort of always trying to develop material that means that the editor at the end will have the right choices to be able to create, or the options, if you like, to be able to create that thing.
It's top 3 tip time.
Top 3 tips, yes.
So don't go back, forth, back. Go on,
Yeah,
Greg,
I'll
you
go back.
first.
I'll go forth. You go back. Watch through what you've got. Watch through, everything you've got. Understand all the footage you've got at your disposal.
Number 2, I'd say tone and pace. So, for example, if you're making a video for a coffee shop in town, for example, and it's pretty chilled in the day, don't then slap a hardcore drum and bass, junglistic, like whatever track on top of that. It might work in places. And this is where your speed comes in, where if you wanted to speed ramp, which is an editing technique, a coffee being made quickly because you didn't want to hang around on the coffee, like, oh, first I do this with the coffee machine, then I boil the water, and then I get the milk and do this and make a nice. You could speed ramp that bit, and that could be a change of pace and a change of music. But yeah, think about the message you're trying to get across.
Yeah, and I say just to sort of tack on, but the speed of, or rather the timing of cuts, I think is the most fundamental tool of an editor, is the timing of your cuts, isn't it? And that's and that has to do with the macro, the message, like you say, the pace, what's the sort of the feel of the thing. But even just, I remember like when I was at uni, the sort of tutor would watch over and he would be like, cut now, like, you know what I mean? And I do it to people now,
you get that
stuff,
feeling,
and we do it to each other. You should have cut there. Like, I felt that was when the cut was needed, and it's weird, and it's maybe quarter of a second before it was actually, but it's like, that was wrong, this is right.
Yeah,
like,
that is a sixth sense.
the time it's a real, and it's the every editor can do. You can move, and it just makes such a difference, and it's part of its detail, and some of it's, so it's the grand picture and the micro detail of the timing of the cuts is.
Number 3,
the vital tip is story. There's always a story to tell. So whether it's long piece, short piece, what's the story you're trying to tell, and then the decisions you make should be sort of in service of that.
Well, if you need things, give us a call, send us an email. We film things and edit them, as we've just
think all that insanity every time.
Yeah, we do, don't we? Yeah.
Footage to edit. But
that is the end of another lovely episode.
Yeah, I think
See, that's how good of friends we are. We just chat for an hour about work stuff. We could have gone down football and tequila, and
for the audience, due to editing, it will be hopefully not an hour.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah. Watch this amazing hour-long chat on editing be reduced to 20
seconds.
20 seconds, yeah. Anyway, we will both, at certain points in the future, see you again.
Thank you.